What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Made You a Mixtape podcast. We've got a really special show for you today. Joining us on the podcast, none other than singer, songwriter, performer, JENNA Nation. Jenna, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing really, really well. How about you?
Can't complain. Before we get into all that you've got going on right now, I have to ask, as a performer over the past year, how much has it, well, let's call it spade a spade. How much has it sucked actually not being able to be on stage and perform for everybody?
It's been hard. I mean, as much as I love, writing and being in the studio and everything, that's, obviously a great part of my career. The performing is probably the best part of it for me and my favorite part. And, when you go from like playing every weekend to not at all, it's a little bit, it's hard. It's sad. You really, really miss it.
Are you going through the live withdrawal symptoms?
I am going through the live withdrawal symptoms. I have been doing some, virtual shows, but I mean, it's good, but it's not the same as just having that audience in front of you, that energy. And it's a whole different thing.
Now, during this time, you've also been doing some quarantine covers on your YouTube channel. How fun has that been, just kind of delving into those kind of songs and, putting your own spin on them?
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, I did used to do some covers before, but it was years ago and I kind of stopped doing it. And then, I had some people, especially with doing some of these virtual shows, write to me and say, hey, I'd really love to hear you do this song, or can you do this? And so I was like, what, why not? And, I do some of these songs as well when I'm performing live. And so, now that I've had the time, it's been kind of nice to just do my own versions of songs that I enjoy singing. And it's been kind of cool getting like a different audience as well sometimes, just because like they're looking up an Adele song or Stevie Wonder and then they happen to come across me. So that's kind of a cool thing that happens as well.
Now, you've also got a new single out now on Spotify and all the streaming platforms, Roses. For anyone who hasn't actually heard you yet, how would you describe your music to the uninitiated ear?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think of myself as an R&B singer. There's a lot of different influences in what I do. There's definitely some jazz influences, some pop, some soul. But a lot of like my background comes from jazz, listening to a lot of soul from like 70s and even like a lot of like R&B from the 80s and 90s. And so that's definitely incorporated into what I do. But then also has, more of like that current contemporary R&B sound as well, just to keep it, so that, people who are 15 want to listen to the song and people who are, 50 hopefully want to listen to the song as well. So I'm trying to kind of appeal to everybody, but I also want to make music that people can relate to and just makes them feel good. There's something in it that, they want to listen to that and want to listen to the next song.
Now, being a Canadian artist,
yes.
How does it feel knowing that, because your songs are being picked up by radio stations, both traditional and internet, pretty much around the world. Have you encountered a situation where you sit there and go, okay, I can't believe you're here and you actually heard this song?
Yeah, it's been really amazing, especially with this new song. I've been getting a lot of really positive feedback, and it's amazing, what we can do now because of the internet and everything. So, yeah, definitely. It's been getting a lot of radio play in the US, some in Canada as well. Internet radio stations are always amazing, but the really cool thing for me personally is when it's like in places in Europe and whatnot, just because, randomly some station in Germany says, hey, I want to play your song. It's like, well, how did you even hear of me? So it's a really, really cool feeling for sure.
Now, when it comes to writing your music, how is the process? Do you start with the lyrics, or do you start with the beats? Like, what is the evolution of a JENNA Nation song?
I liked how that sounded. I mean, it really depends. My personal favorite is kind of to be in a room with a producer, maybe like another songwriter or two, and, we're kind of all together in the room, just like starting something from scratch organically, where like the producer is like playing some chords or some kind of riff on the guitar or playing down some keys, and and then we're kind of just me or the songwriters in the room as well are kind of coming up with concepts or melodies. And that's kind of my favorite way, just because it sort of evolves from there. There's times though where, I can be walking down the street or just anywhere really, and some idea will pop into my head. So I literally have like a million voice notes on my phone of just potential songs. Usually though, melody comes to me first, and then from there the words kind of develop. That's always kind of been a thing for me. I struggled a lot when I first started writing with lyrics, and that's something that I've really had to work on and develop over time. But it's getting better. So that I would say definitely music comes first. There's also times where people will send me beats that are already produced, and then I'll write to them, but my preference is generally just all together organically making a song.
When you're writing the lyrics for the music, this is what I always find fascinating, is like how much of a person they put themselves into the songs themselves. Do you find, like, when it started, like, was everything really personal, or was it very like abstract thinking? And how has that changed from like that first song to the most recent single?
Yeah, I think so. When I first started writing, it wasn't really, intentional in the sense like, hey, I'm going to sit down and write a song. More of like, there was things that I was like going through in my life, and that kind of was my therapy in a sense, where I just would sit at the piano, and it just was my way to like get out my feelings and emotions, especially like as a teenager. There's a lot of things you're feeling, so that's kind of when that started for me. And then it obviously became more intentional. So I mean, it always comes somewhat from my personal experience, but sometimes it can be not necessarily my own story. It can be something that a friend's told me, or a discussion I've had with someone, or even like something that I've seen on TV or in a movie. And there's something obviously that I can still like relate to, or it can be like a song cannot necessarily be like a whole truth, where there's like parts of it that are true, but there's other things that I embellish, or things that are based on other things that I've seen, heard, or experienced. Yeah.
Before you started out, like, what was the nucleus of wanting to get into this career? Like, at what point did you sit there and say, I think I'm going to go kick ass and make some awesome music? Like, how did we get to this point?
Thank you. Really, I mean, I started so young. Like, I can't remember a day where I wasn't singing. And I mean, it helped too, like, that music was a big part of my family as well. Like, my mom and I would sing all the time. My dad plays the drums, and there's always music, going on in the house. So yeah, I just like, I was singing like Disney songs and whatever was on the radio as a kid. And I was put into piano lessons as like a very small child. I was like 4 years old, which I didn't enjoy that much at the time, but I did realize that, okay, well, if there's piano lessons, there must be singing lessons. So that's when I asked my parents for singing lessons. So I started at 7. And I entered my first like singing competition when I was 8 years old, and I ended up winning that competition. So that kind of was my first, I guess, realization that, okay, maybe I can do this. And so it kind of went from there, where I continued with competitions, and then people at these competitions started to see me and ask me to do like gigs, and it just sort of spiraled from there with music festivals and working with different bands. And yeah.
Now, you mentioned, that you've always kind of had music in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our musical influences, whether we realize it or not, comes from some of those, like those first introductions to music. Do you remember like some of those albums or some of those artists that, your parents had on in the house when you were a kid, and it, for some reason, it just stuck?
Yeah, there's definitely a few. Well, the first song that I ever really sang, you know, other than like a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, was actually
which is a banger track. Let's be honest.
right, yeah, a classic, but was actually a Stevie Wonder song. For Your Love, I Would Do Anything. So that was like the first time that my mom really actually heard me sing. And yeah, Stevie Wonder is like my parents' probably favorite. So that was always playing in the house. Songs in the Key of Life is, I think, my parents' favorite album, and is definitely one of my favorite albums. Michael Jackson also was another one that was always playing. When I went over to my grandparents' house, I spent a lot of time with both sides of my grandparents as a child. I got introduced to a lot of like jazz music from, you know, 1940s and 30s and 50s. And so I was listening to people like Ella Fitzgerald and Judy Garland and Sarah Vaughan. And so those really had an impact on me as well. Yeah, I mean, and then my parents listened to like a lot of classic rock and funk, Earth, Wind and Fire. And so I kind of got the best of it all. It was really great. Yeah. And then, I mean, as a child as well, like growing up, you kind of had to listen to like the Spice Girls and Backstreet Boys and all of that. So that also, yeah, was a part of my soundtrack.
I always find it fascinating because they say you always remember your first. And in this case, do you remember the first time with your own money you went to the record store and bought an album for yourself? Like, not one that was given to you as a birthday gift or a Christmas gift, but with your own hard-earned, whether it was, you know, babysitting or allowance or whatever you saved up for, going to the store, buying that first album for yourself.
Okay, which one was that? Well, I it's kind of on that topic, but while I think of the first album that I bought, but the first gig that I ever did, I was 9 years old, and it was for the Parliament, like performing on Parliament Hill for Canada Day celebrations. And I mean, it was a government gig, so I ended up, you know, getting paid very nicely. And I actually, the first thing that I did with that money is I bought like a CD and cassette player, like a stereo. So that was what I did with that money, like when my first gig ever. But okay, my first, I feel like it's,
Like what you're probably thinking, like, was it a cassette? Was it a CD?
Yeah, because I know I received, like I said, I can remember like receiving like Backstreet Boys, Spice Girls, even like a Britney Spears cassette. I think it might be Avril Lavigne actually.
Okay, so like the first one with Complicated on it.
Yeah, the very first one.
which had like so many people forget how big that album was.
That was amazing. Yeah.
And you know, and there's another one like Small Town Canadian Girl. Not that Ottawa's a small town. I come from Ottawa, so I get it, right? But like Small Town Canadian Girl explodes, absolutely exploded. And of course, this is when Much Music actually played music. You've actually done a few videos yourself on your YouTube channel. How is that experience when you take, you know, a song that you've spent so much time on, and you put it in the hands of a video director and say, okay, let's go with it?
Yeah, it's really exciting because it's so cool to have something that you've created and then have a visual to accompany it. Because that happens to me too when I'm writing. I've not even finished the song and I'm already picturing like what I want the video to look like. So it's kind of cool when that all comes together. And it's interesting as well because, you know, often I have like my own ideas of what I want for the video, but sometimes it's really interesting to kind of give it to somebody else and just kind of see what their vision is and what they come up with. And that can be really cool because it might be like an even better idea than what you thought, or to kind of combine some things together based on what they thought and what you saw for the song. And it's really great. And then doing the actual process is many hours because there's so much you have to prepare in order to like set up. I mean, I'm involved in it, but there's so many people that are involved in like finding the locations and the wardrobe and the makeup and the, lighting and making sure you have the right types of cameras and all of that. And so it's a huge process. And then, the day of, depending, it can get, really, crazy with the amount of locations and the wardrobe changes, and you got to change your makeup, and then you sing 10 seconds in this position and then 15 seconds in this position, and and it's a long day or a couple of days, but then when you see it all come together, it's so worth it. So it's really cool.
And that's the thing for anyone who hasn't ever been on a music video shoot, you hear the same song over and over and over again. And even if it's your song, do you sit there at the end of the shoot and go, yeah, I'm kind of done with this for a little bit?
Definitely. And then you're done with the day, but you can't go to sleep because you got that song still repeating in your head. And it definitely happens. So
now, in connecting with your fans, like especially at this time, with the pandemic going on, you've launched something with Fangage. Now, what is Fangage?
So Fangage is a site. It's based in the US, and pretty much it's not just for artists. Like it can be athletes or really anybody. And I literally just discovered it recently. But it's a kind of like a website, but it's like a web page, and you choose your content on it like you would sort of like a social media page or your own website. And it's a way for you to connect with your fans because they can, following you, they can get like exclusive access to, your latest single or, a personal online show or, some merchandise or whatever you choose to, share with your fans. So it's kind of cool because then your fans can actually kind of get an exclusive like access and first access to, whatever it is you're choosing to share with your fans. So I just recently got on Fangage. So I have a Fangage page. So yeah, there's some cool things there. I have the opportunities to hear any new releases, to be the first to hear any new releases. There's also an online show opportunity for the first 10 people. What else? I think I have, because fitness is a huge part of my life, I think I have some opportunities to get like kind of insiders into my personal workouts. And so, yeah.
And, given how it's probably going to be a while before concerts can happen, you can kind of get back out there and performing, in front of people. How important is having, that kind of web presence like Fangage, mean to you in this time?
It's very important. Just because, most of how I connect with my fans is through performing. And yes, kind of like we talked about before, you can still do that online. And for sure, online definitely allows you to connect with more people because, it's not very often that I'm, over in Germany or something, and do a show. So it's kind of nice where an online show, you can have somebody from South Africa or Japan or, wherever they are, kind of being able to see you perform. But yeah, it's just kind of another avenue for me to be able to be able to keep in touch with my fans, let them know what I'm up to, and to be able to still share with them.
Now, you've had some really cool gigs in the past. You've played Blues Fest. You've had a chance to open for a number of big name artists. Shawn Mendes, as I recall, is one of them. But you've also played some smaller, more intimate gigs. As a performer, which do you prefer? Like the big, massive stage with the light show and the whole works, or like the one where there's not much of a difference between the floor height and the stage height, and you're pretty much there with the crowd?
Yeah. In all honesty, I mean, those big shows with all the lights and everything, like they're a lot of fun. And I think the the preparation for that almost is like the most fun part of it, just because there's just so much that goes into it. And so that's like at the end, it's like a super like polished, just like ready to go show. But I personally love those, more like intimate venues, where, like you said, it's true. The stage height is like not that far from the floor, and like, people are right in front of your face sometimes, and that probably won't happen for a while now, and those are my favorite, because in those kinds of situations, like when I'm on like a blues fest stage or whatever, like you can't really see the crowd, and you can't really connect one-on-one and see like people's faces, because there's just so many lights and so many things happening. But when I'm in more of like an intimate setting, I can see people's faces. I can see the reactions. They can call out to me and say, "I love that," or it's just like it's more of a connection, honestly. And then it's cool when you're in those places and people who've never met before come to these venues, and then like they connect and become friends because of something that you're doing, and it feels really good. The other thing that's kind of fun about those shows is that it's not as planned. Like, sure, you have like your set list and basically what you're going to do, but it allows more room for like the artist and the band to kind of improvise a little more and go off script. You never know, like someone could call it a song and then, okay, let's play it. Or, your 2-minute song ends up being like a 6-minute song because someone had like a amazing solo, or you went into some kind of other direction and you're just kind of vibing and going with the flow on the stage and with what's going on in the audience. So that's really fun.
As long as the crowd doesn't yell out, play Freebird, we're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, for the record, you think it's funny? No band wants to play Freebird. No. Just telling you right out there.
There are some songs like that for sure.
When you're putting together the set list, like how much do you agonize over it? And do you find you agonize over a shorter, like 20-minute or 30-minute set time over, say, like a full night of like maybe 3 sets?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. Definitely, because when you have those only like 10 to 20 minute kind of sets, usually those are like those showcase opportunities and whatnot. Like, you have to really win someone over in a short amount of time. So I'm like really thinking about like everything that I want to say, how I want to come across, like the right songs, the right order of the song is really important. But yeah, with those shows that it's more of like 3 45 50-minute sets, it's kind of more like I know what songs I want to do. I usually kind of, instead of listing like exactly, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3, it's just kind of like, okay, here's 100 songs I'm going to pick, have them on the side on my iPad, and then we'll like kind of, let's do this song as we're going on the stage. So yeah.
Now, you mentioned too about your fitness, because you're not just a singer. You also you host boot camps. You do virtual classes. Tell us a little bit about your fitness instruction.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So that's like a big part of my life. It is also like helping to pay the bills a little bit right now, in all honesty. But I do really enjoy it. It's just kind of another way for me to like connect with people. I guess that's kind of what I feel like I'm meant to do. And usually I'm doing group fitness classes. So I've been a trainer at Orange Theory Fitness for a couple of years now, and it's a great gym. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, during this pandemic as well, when the gyms were closed, I was doing, well, in the fall when it was a little bit warmer, I was doing like outdoor boot camps in the park. So that was really cool to kind of bring my community together to do, socially distanced, obviously, boot camps. And it was cool because like people got to meet each other, and some people made friends because of it, or even, now going for like runs together because they met through my boot camps, which is fun. And now because it's too cold to do it outside, I'm doing them, over Zoom. So that's been really fun too.
Now, I remember seeing on your website that I guess it was probably maybe last summer or last fall that you hosted one, a boot camp in Toronto with proceeds going to charity. As a performer, and someone who has that kind of platform, how important is it for you to be able to give back to the community in ways like that?
It's really, it feels really good that I can do that. Actually, talking about giving back to the community, not only did I, be able to bring people together through these boot camps and be able to provide like a platform for people to still, be able to get their fitness in and, stay motivated during these times. But we actually also donated, so each class was $12, and for every person, $2 went to the Toronto Fort York Food Bank. So we were able to raise close to $400 for the Fort York Food Bank. So that was really awesome as well. I love that people were, were encouraged by that too. So. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like when you have, that ability to help out, it helps so much, especially in times like this.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like as a performer, do you still enjoy going to concerts?
Oh yeah, I love it. Especially because I live in Toronto now, and usually outside of these times, there's like tons of live music every night. There's so many venues, so you can just go check out a band, and I used to do that all the time. Which is, it inspires me to keep going, and it gives me a lot of energy when I'm, seeing other people perform, and it's just like enjoyable for me too, to just like hear other people play and hear great music. So I really look forward to that again. Just being able to go out and like hear some people play music, bands, whatever. Yeah.
Do you find it's hard to listen to music and not start to dissect it, as far as like, the instrumentation, the production value and all that?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's hard. I have to say, like, Jenna, turn your brain off, just relax, listen. Don't try to analyze, what scale they're, improvising or what chord that was. Is like, yeah, sometimes I definitely do that, and it can get in the way of the enjoyment of the music for sure.
But even to that token, are there certain songs where you sit there and go, if I've got to throw a cover in a set, this is definitely like, what's on the, Jenna wants to play this list?
Oh, that's a good question. I think sometimes it really depends on the venue and like who I'm playing for, because I might tailor the set list a little bit more to, the audience for sure. There's definitely, I think like I'll always love singing Summer Over the Rainbow. I don't know. I just, and you can do that in so many different ways. You can make it more jazz. You can make it more R&B. You can, what else? There's some Stevie Wonder songs for sure that I will always love playing too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Those are the first ones that come to mind for sure.
Okay. I'm going to put it set there.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, if you had the opportunity to take one of your songs and put it in any movie that's already currently made, which song of yours would you love to have, and what movie would you put it in?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Making me think here.
We don't go easy in this podcast.
No, that's good. I like it. Well, I'm biased because I just released Roses, and as of right now, that's like my favorite song that I've done to date. So I would probably say Roses, and I guess it would have to be in some kind of like rom-com or something like that. But yeah, maybe if like Roses was in like The Notebook or something, that would probably work well.
Well, if they ever make The Notebook 2, because
right,
everything has to have a sequel these days, right?
Exactly. Where has that been? There you go.
Now you know where to find Jenna.
Exactly.
As we slowly get to the point where, you know, the vaccine is in the arms of everyone, you know, we get to that herd immunity and we start to get back to live shows. How do you feel that's going to go? Like, are people going to be hesitant to go to a live show? Do you feel there's going to be plexiglass barriers between the stage and the crowd for the next time being?
Yeah. I mean, I did do some shows actually during the pandemic. And yeah, there was like, you know, the plexiglass and people had to be like socially distanced, and it felt kind of weird. Like, I mean, it was still nice to perform, but I didn't feel totally relaxed like I normally can on stage, because I was thinking about, yeah, there's still this barrier in front of me, or, you know, that like people just felt so far from me that it was like, it made it a little bit more difficult to connect. And yeah, I definitely feel that, you know, it's going to be slow kind of moving into people feeling comfortable again to like go out. And you know, I'm sure there's still going to be restrictions for a while for bars and music venues and all of that, unfortunately.
And yeah, that's the thing for anyone who's ever been to, you know, a bar gig or a smaller, more intimate venue. And I'm sure you'll probably attest to this. People get crazy. They get a few drinks in and they get crazy. Right. They're on the dance floor. They're jumping up on the stage. They want to grab your mic because they think they can sing too. It happens. Like, is that going to be like in the back of your mind? Like, you know, please keep your distance when you're playing, you know, at least those first couple of shows.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, we want everybody to be safe, and definitely, you know, alcohol can impair your judgment, you know, and what to. So yeah, you just hope that like people can respect your boundaries, and yeah, so it might be a little bit. I might have that in the back of my mind for sure for a little while.
But and even to that, and you know, for the audience, of course, you know, when concerts come back, go see the show. Like to everyone listening, go see the show, whether it's Jenna's or whether it's your favorite band or whatever. Go see the show, because there's nothing like, you know, the magic of live music, and that is sorely missed in all of this. What have you got coming up?
Yeah, so I've been writing a lot of music during this time, so I've had a lot of time to do that, and so I have an EP coming this year. So I've been working with a producer in Nashville. And it's funny, like this time last year, I was actually in Nashville recording there, and literally had to come home because we didn't know if like the borders were going to be closed or what was happening. So I came home literally just in time. But yeah, so most of like, thankfully, like the final vocals were finished for the album. So yeah, just over the past year now, it's just been kind of touching up the production and working on all the other things. So this year, got some new music coming. The EP, it definitely has a lot of 90s like R&B influences, and which I'm really excited about too, which I haven't done for a little while. Is there's like produced, engineered, you know, tracks. There's also live instruments as well, which is kind of nice to be able to have them both. Yeah, so that's coming, and then some other singles as well, and hopefully a video for Roses, like a full video.
Okay, Jenna, we've come to the part of the podcast where we get a little bit personal here. Okay. All right. Here is the question. Here is the hypothetical question that everyone gets. If you were to introduce yourself to a total stranger, but without actually introducing yourself, you just basically hand them a mixtape, and on that mixtape are songs that are the story of you. Okay. What's on that mixtape, and why are those songs there?
Okay. Okay, so I talked about this song before, but Somewhere Over the Rainbow, just because that song was probably the first song that really, I don't know, like when I heard Judy Garland sing that song, and like the first version of The Wizard of Oz, I just, something just like I had chills. Something in me just, there was just a way that she was able to sing the song, and like you could tell that her like whole body was in it, and you felt everything that she was saying, and there was just this sincerity and realness to what she was singing. Also a little bit of like sadness, and you could just feel all of that. And so that just, when I heard her do that, to me, that was like, okay, that's what I want to be able to do. So that song has a lot of meaning for me, but also I love the words of the song. I think they're so beautiful because it's about hope. So definitely that song. I would also say, Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson has like a really big meaning for my sister and I. Like we really had a moment where we just like bonded over that song. We've always been very, very close. I have a younger sister. And there was like a point in time where we kind of went through, like I was in high school and she was in middle school, and like we really butt heads for a little while there. And I think that happens sometimes with siblings.
That never happens with siblings.
We loved each other, but we didn't like each other in that moment, in those couple of years. And so that song kind of like brought us together in a lot of ways again. What else? Nancy Wilson. She's one of like my favorite singers. And I think she's really underrated. a lot more people need to know about her. She has a song, The Masquerade Is Over. I don't think she actually wrote the song, but her version of it is just so beautiful. Again, I'm really attracted to the singers that can give you that like pain with the beauty at the same time. She really does that with that song. So yeah, I think it's just kind of about like letting go of, of falsities, of not like faking it or being something that you're not. And that's something that I've experienced a lot with my career is, a lot of times people have wanted me to be something, or have a certain vision, or idea of what I should be or what I should be doing. And I've had to fight that a lot. And there's been times where I've sort of gave in a little bit and then realized, no, that's definitely not what I want to do, because it's not who I am. And I wouldn't feel good at the end of the day going in that direction. So those definitely are some songs for sure that would be on there.
You mentioned when you were talking about Somewhere Over the Rainbow, how the music and the lyrics hit you. How do you know when a song just catches you? Is it the music? Is it the lyrics? Is it the key signatures? Like, what is it that raises the hair on the arm?
Yeah, I think that really depends. There's been times for sure when, the intro of a song can just really hit you because of like the instrumentation, or how, if it's live musicians playing it, the feeling and what they're putting into it. But I think I can tell often right away, like as soon as if it's like a singer, as soon as they like the first note that they sing, it's just, there's just something extra there that, just will grab you right away.
Now, as someone who has gotten to where she is, like you have, to other up and coming singer songwriters, what advice would you give them?
There's definitely a couple things that I could say. First is definitely to stay true to who you are. This business can be very, very difficult, very challenging. And like I was saying before, there's a lot of people who may not have the best intentions, or they have strong opinions of what you should be doing, how you should be doing, and how you should be doing things. And it's not necessarily right for you. And if you have that gut feeling that it doesn't feel good or doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Don't go with it, because you won't be happy at the end of the day. And people can tell when you're real and when you're when you're fake, and people gravitate towards people that are honest and genuine, and not everybody's gonna love you, but that's how it goes. And you just hope that people do like accept you for who you are. The other thing I can say is be patient. Again, this industry, like you really never know. It could be like years and years and years of you working on your craft, and then one day, like one song just blows up, or there happens to be some like A&R from a label in the audience of your show, or whatever it is. And, or, you could be singing for a week and your, Spotify song gets on some kind of crazy million listeners sound, list, and you never know what could happen. So, it's just like, there's going to be days where it feels hard and it feels like, why am I doing this? Maybe sometimes, but just like be patient, and it's like, you have to be doing it for you at the end of the day. So, and if it's not, then maybe it's not right for you, but it's just, just don't give up.
and very, very true. Do you remember, as you were getting started, or even like to this point now, just memorable advice that people have given you along the way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely those things were things that I heard from people. I've got some really great tips in terms of like performing and connecting with people. When I first started, I was always comfortable singing, but talking for me was like, I get so nervous. I'd sing a song and then all of a sudden, like, I'd be back into like reality, and I'm like, what do I say? I have to say something now. And I was so nervous, but I had a lot of help with being able to, figure out what to say in between songs and kind of how to relate to people that way. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, definitely learned, don't pay people up front for services. That's a big one. There's so many people out there that say like, oh, well, I'm a big manager and, have this phone call consultation for $250 US, or I can make you a really big star, but I'm first going to need $1,500 of your money to start everything, or whatever else. So.
See, that sounds like the kind of person who has a side job as the Nigerian prince who sends emails out.
Yeah, it happens. Or even like I keep seeing it on my Facebook all the time, but there's these, maybe you've seen them as well, but these like singing competitions. And then they say like, oh, well, there's these A&R reps that are going to be the judges, or, managers of like Madonna and Ariana Grande or whatever else. And so like they say, oh, so like to apply, it's $200. And then, you maybe get to the next round. Oh, but now it's going to be another fee for you to get to that next round. And really it's just a money grab, which makes me so sad because so many people do it. I mean, I'll be honest, I've fallen for it before too, but yeah.
And it can be hard. I mean, like, the common joke is that, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, bands would play, a gig and get $100 a pop. And, and it's 2021 and bands are still going to be playing for $100 a pop. How hard has it been that you even mentioned yourself, that first gig, the government gig, actually getting paid for it? How hard has it been as a musician to have to deal with, almost the devaluation of what you do?
Yeah, it's, it really hurts to be honest. Like, because when I was like 9, 10 years old, like I just wanted to sing. I didn't really care, and I wasn't really like, yes, I knew I wanted to continue it, but I wasn't really thinking at the time, like, yeah, I need to be paid for this because this is my job. I was just like, I love doing it. I don't care. But, when you're, I won't say my age, but I'm getting a little up there now. And, I've been doing this for 20 years. It's like, okay, well, this is my career. Just like when you go to a restaurant and you order food and the chef cooks your food, you have to pay for it. Or when you go to, you know, get therapy and like you have to pay for it. It's just like any service, anything else that you're asking for, you pay for it. And it's difficult, you know, when you get, you know, these people reaching out to you saying like, oh, I have this spot on Friday nights from 5 to 8 p.m. Really love you to play over dinner. I can't really offer you any money at this time, but you know, a beer, you know, and it'll be great exposure for you.
Oh, there's the word right there. There's the word right there.
And it's just like, okay, well, as I saw this thing on Facebook one time, someone saying like, oh, well, you know, it's like as a chef, like, oh, I'm having this party for 50 people and I'd really love for you to come and cook for these 50 people. And it would be a great way for them to experience, you know, your cooking, and it'll be great exposure for you. You can eat any food that you cook, you know. It's just like, it's just, yeah, it's really, really frustrating because a lot of people don't see it as like a real job, and it really is. And like, where would people be without music? Like, we need music everywhere. You listen to music in your car. What would a movie or a TV show be without music? Or going to the gym, it would be so strange without music. Like, we need music. And yeah, so it's, yeah.
And that could be, you know, a bit of the misconception too. I mean, for anyone who, you know, just looks on the surface of things like, oh, yeah, well, she's got music playing in all over the world and she's got music videos and she's doing these big shows. Oh, she's fine. She doesn't need, you know, the money. No. You know, like,
yeah, that's a thing. Like, you know, when we get a play on Spotify, it's 0.00 whatever 4 cents. Like, you need 1 million streams just to make like $10 or something. Like, it's ridiculous. And yeah, it's and sure, like I'll have like shows every weekend, but like I'm not making $1 million a show. It's like it's like
yet not making $1 million a show yet.
No, yet, yeah, I like that. But yeah, and like, unfortunately, I do understand, like, there's definitely some bands or artists going to these venues that kind of ruin it for other artists because like they may not like behave appropriately or take care of the equipment or things like that. I know that happens, and so it kind of ruins it for the rest of us who do take things seriously and like, you know, do behave appropriately and everything. So I do understand when like some venues or restaurants are like hesitant with musicians coming in. And but the other thing that I think people maybe don't understand who aren't musicians is like the amount of work and like time that goes into our craft. It's not like we just show up at the venue and like just start singing. It's like this, or playing, like it's years and years and years of practice and like mastering our craft. And then, you know, all the equipment that we have to buy is really expensive, and then it's recording and paying for rehearsal space. And you know, there's so much time and like extra, you know, that goes into putting together a show for a couple hours for a night. Yeah.
But then again, on the flip side,
yes,
on the flip side, on the good side of things, have you ever gotten feedback from one of your listeners who said, this song did this for me?
Yeah. I've had that a few times where it's people who've come to my show and they may not have even like known who I was. They just like decided to pop into that venue that night, and they were having like a really bad day. And, you know, someone comes up to me afterwards and they say, you know what? I just decided to pop into this bar, and they said, you know what, you really like made my day, or you made me feel so much better. Or I actually one time had a song of mine, someone sent me a message and said that one of my songs actually helped them get through the death of their mother. And that was like, wow, I did that. Like, I don't know how, but like, I'm so happy that I could do that for somebody. Like, it's I don't know, that's the best feeling ever.
And that's, I think, a great spot to bring this to the close. Jenna, thank you so much for this conversation. Where can our listeners find you on social media, and how can they hear your music?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a website, JENNANation.com. I have my new Fangage page as well, so you can go check me out there. It's fangage.com, and put in JENNA Nation. I also have all of my social media, like Instagram and Twitter. Facebook is at JENNA G Nation. And then, yeah, all my music is on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Google Play, SoundCloud, all of that as well. So, yeah.
Excellent. Jenna, much success to you in the future. Take care, stay safe. And to all of our listeners, thank you. This has been the Made You a Mixtape podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can download and listen to us on the go on all audio streaming platforms. But if you're doing that already, guess what? You can actually watch this interview on YouTube as well on our channel. Find us on Twitter at the MYAM podcast. We also have a Facebook page. Jenna, thank you. We will see you next time on Made You a Mixtape. Take care.
Thank you so much.